A show's worth can be heavily weighted by its ability to get the audience emotional,
What's up?
or its ability to convey a scene so well that it gives you chills across your body. And the show Bluey is one that achieves this almost on every single episode. Because of this, making a list with just the top best ones is extremely challenging.
This is difficult.
Especially since the word emotional can mean so many different things. It doesn't necessarily have to always mean that it makes you cry. It's all about the other multitude of feelings the human body can express. On my previous video discussing the emotional mastery of Bluey, I thoroughly explained the multiple different techniques the show uses to achieve this, so it can be worth the watch before getting into this list. The reason why I started this series is my history of working with kids in a therapeutic setting, and that has inspired me to start this series. And I need to mention that the rankings of these could fluctuate almost daily for me, and that a person's own personal history can influence whether or not you find certain episodes emotional. For example, a mother of a child might find Baby Race to be the most emotional.
You're doing great.
Or someone who grew up with someone or had someone in their life with neurodevelopmental conditions might find the episode Army to be the most emotional. It's all purely subjective, but before we get into the bacon and eggs of the video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. You have no idea how much it helps getting these videos out to more fans like you. And let's get into the most emotional episodes of Bluey.
But I'm going to do whatever I can now to help you. Work on their heads later. For now, just hearts. Mum? Are you okay, Dad?
Yeah, mate.
Remember, I'll always be here for you. Even if you can't see me. Because I love you. That was a long time ago.
No, it was yesterday.
I promise I'll always love
It was a squabble.
you. Maybe, but we still love each other.
I'm new to the Healer family, and just between you and me, they're a bit crazy. But give them a chance. They're full of love.
To start the list off, we're going with an episode that is often considered one of the best episodes in the series, Rain. It's an episode that uses voice acting least similar to Sleepy Time, allowing Joff to lean into his strength as a composer, to allow himself to make pieces of music that elevate and show the emotions on the screen beautifully. From the very beginning, rain begins heavily falling down, allowing a unique setting for the episode, as Chili rushes to take in everything that would be ruined by the rain, while Bluey rushes to start frolicking with the raindrops. With the music on full display, the animation team shows the natural beauty that we often take for granted created by the weather, which is an underlying theme for the episode that we should take note of. As Bluey continues to be carefree, we can see the water build up and slowly creep down the entryway, giving a new way for Bluey to play. Throughout the episode, we can see the wheels in Bluey's mind start to turn, as she does what she does best, finding a creative way to play, as well as Chili's continued desire to keep her child and her house from getting messy. Bluey uses everything she can throughout the episode to find a way to essentially create a dam to capture the rain in her entryway, even going as far as using everything Chili gifts Bluey to remain dry/cleansely to build this dam. During this entire time, not a single word is allowed to be spoken. Instead, it is up to the music as well as the movement of the characters to express what is being said, being akin to early and primitive cartoons before voice acting was really an option, giving another unique flair to this episode in particular. Bluey does everything in her power to create this improv rain block. However, we only see her efforts fail again and again, as well as Chili continuing to fail to prevent her daughters from tracking the elements into the house. Soon after, we get one of the few voice clips we get in this entire episode, which is an exhausted sigh from Chili, as we can see her finally relax and examine Bluey's elaborate game, slowly smiling. Despite all of Bluey's best efforts, it appears the water is going to best her again, right before Chili steps in, with the music swelling once again. Chili's entire purpose in this episode is thrown away, as she realizes she needs to abandon her best efforts of avoiding the rain by tossing aside her umbrella to complete the row, all for her little child. Beautifully, despite their best efforts, we never see this accomplished, as the rain ceases to hold, creating a very melancholy scene. Right before the show demonstrates the natural specter of the world again, as the clouds divide, creating a double rainbow in the sky, quite literally lighting up the scene and the mood for Bluey, creating this touching scene. If it wasn't enough, the universe decides to give them a second chance as the sky begins pouring again, making them both rush to their unfinished project, and finally, we as the audience also remain unfinished as the credits rolls before any progress is made again. For placement 9, we have Rug Island.
Rug Island! Huh?
This episode, like many, demonstrates the extreme lengths the parents will go to play with their children. However, this one truly tests the limits on this, as we will get into more later.
Oh, I wish you didn't have to work.
That's what grown-ups do, I'm afraid.
The kids are given a set of markers that initiate a game called Rug Island, where they make an elaborate island on their backyard with rugs around the house. But in this new fantasy land, everything, and I mean everything, is composed of markers between food,
Fruit.
tools,
Yeah.
and many more.
Nice shelter, Bingo. Thanks.
Everything is left up to the imagination to create. Being the kids the two are, this is something that is extremely easy for them. But as Bandit is reintroduced into the episode, we can see him struggle with this concept,
Oh,
which can be extremely interesting to examine since we only ever see him being fully and completely integrated with the games they play. We can see Bandit acting as a washed up grown-up
oh, man, I must have fallen off my ship.
on Rug Island, acting as someone who wishes to go back home.
Please, I just want to get back to my ship.
And in this made-up world, Bluey states,
Grown-ups don't belong on Rug Island.
the contrast between grown-ups and kids is a key underlying meaning to this episode. So let's keep a close eye on this as we continue to talk about this episode. As Bluey puts Bandit to work, Bandit has to learn the way this world works and how to effectively identify and imagine what each marker is supposed to be.
That's a snake.
Ah, get off me!
He isn't very good at this at first, but as the episode continues, he learns to be accustomed to this
Ah, I see.
and even introduces new exciting ways the markers can be utilized to the children.
Fire!
Everything works out perfectly for the trio until everything snaps back to reality due to their neighbor Pat.
Oh,
With the kids' imagination still being on full display, they decide to snatch up the rugby ball, declaring it as a giant chocolate egg,
Wow!
and running to hide the balls from Pat. Bandit being the grown-up, we can actually see him slip up and leaning back into reality by suggesting that they give the ball back to its rightful owner.
it's his.
Despite the kids' best efforts, Bandit knows he has to do the right thing and takes the eggs from Bingo, and immediately is shunned from Bluey.
I told you, Bingo. Grown-ups don't belong on Rug Island.
Knowing how much this means to his children, he starts feeling reluctant to do the acceptable adult thing. And we get this scene.
Bandit? Ah, yep. Here you go. Stay! Get it off me! Get the grown-up!
Thus reinstating him as a proper member of Rug Island. Luckily, the neighbor Pat is a pretty good sport and plays along with the Healer family's games, but what's most important from the scene, as well as the entire episode, is Bandit's decision to not only keep playing with her kids, but allowing himself to see more clearly from the children's perspective, perhaps even giving him back his childlike imaginations that we often abandon as we grow older. As we approach the climax, Chili calls to Bandit,
Ahoy there!
acting as his ship to finally take him back home, and he is met with the impossible decision of choosing which home is truly his.
What am I gonna do?
Bingo suggests that Bandit goes back to his original home,
You should go.
knowing how much it means to him.
Yes, it's okay. I'm just glad you came to Rug Island.
But before parting ways from his new family, Bingo gives Bandit a parting gift, and we can once again get an amazing musical swell as he approaches Chili. Curious on what Bingo gave him, he opens up his present, containing one single marker shimmering in the light. The same marker that made up all items from the Rug Island. And as Chili asks,
What did she give you?
the show sucker punches you with the entire meaning of the episode with just one single line.
Everything.
Bingo literally gave her father everything in the world with that one marker. It can be anything Bandit wants, further cementing the gift of childlike imagination from his children, which is truly awe-inspiring ending to this fantastic episode. Daddy Drop-Off is a very unique episode, where we start off by being introduced to an entirely new character by the name of Leela, a shy kid on her first day of kindy, and her difficulties with making friends. And unlike the episode Army that does a similar technique, we are torn away to the healer's family's house and the beginning of the day from their perspective, instead of continuing with Leela's perspective, which is an excellent setup for something later. We are shown Bandit playing with his kids while still attempting to enjoy some level of peace and quiet by still laying in bed when Chili reminds him.
You know it's Daddy Drop-Off this morning.
Springing into action, Bandit gets the kids ready for school the best he can. However, as we come to expect, Bluey and Bingo messes with their father throughout the entirety of the episode.
Oh, Bingo, do you hear something? No.
Becky, come on!
Bandit being the good father he is, he continuously plays along with every game they come up with, even in spite of his physical well-being, as well as their potential tardiness from school.
It's just that we'll have to turn back if she's forgotten it.
Bandit is aware of how important it is to have fun with his children, so even if it means cutting it as close as possible, he continues to entertain them, even to the point of annoyance.
Ah, these kids.
Like many episodes, there is an important lesson the studio decides to teach the audience, and this one can be very important to learn for parents. It's common to sometimes disregard the feelings of a child because it can be the right thing to do for society's standard.
Look, mate, I gotta get Bluey to school.
But sometimes doing so can lead to, and this is the nicest and simplest way to say it, ruining their children's day. Bandit has to come to a decision on this episode regarding this topic multiple times, and the strongest test of this is when Bingo wants to play one last game with Bandit before they leave to take Bluey to her school.
Let's aim you up, wind, and release! See you later.
Interestingly enough, we see a shred of maturity on Bluey's part regarding this, and even asks why Bandit did all of this.
If we didn't play Wind Up Bingo just then, would we still be late?
We get an excellent yet simple response from Bandit, tying it all together.
Probably nothing, I suppose. Bingo just walked through the door instead.
Yeah, she would.
Wouldn't be as fun, though.
This small act has an amazing rippling effect as we go back to the perspective of Leela, as we see Bingo go into kindy, still being wound up from Bandit, acting as a toy soldier, shutting down near Leela. Wishing to keep going, Bingo asks shy little Leela to wind her up again, resulting in Leela bursting out in laughter and feeling comfortable around Bingo, to even play along, allowing Leela to break out of her shell. And we can see one of the most touching scenes in the entire show, and well, just watch.
Bingo is my friend now. And I hope we're friends forever and ever and ever.
Seeing their newfound friendship stand the test of time is something that is extremely moving, as well as seeing the lovable little Bingo go through so many stages in life in the span of 4 seconds is frankly just so good. It makes you want to bawl your eyes out in an almost undescribable way due to the multiple different emotions this little scene makes you feel, easily earning its placement as number 8 on the list. Next we move on to Bedroom, and right off the bat with the music track, the studio gives a sense of melancholy in the air as we watch the family tearing down the old baby room, where we see Chili getting emotional from it all, tearing up from possibly seeing the crib for the last time.
Why are you crying?
Oh, it's just this room, sweetheart.
Since Bluey is still young, we can see her get a bit confused on why Chili is getting upset, where we are quickly demonstrated the bittersweet feelings of the progress of time Chili is feeling since her little kids are growing up.
Well, I guess it's not the room. It's who's been in it.
Personally, I think it's phenomenal that the show is able to give me chills from the very first scene alone, and it doesn't stop as we continue onto the episode.
This was your first bed, and then it was Bingo's first bed.
Then she moved into my room?
And now it's no one's.
All right, so we're dumping the cot.
Shortly after, we see the kids devising a plan and asking what the old baby room is going to be.
Can it be my bedroom?
If anyone had siblings, they can easily start resonating with this, and personally it always puts a smile on my face considering the direct contrasts of the two scenes from sadness to plotting, for lack of better terms. What's really sweet about this episode is normally getting your own room is seen as an awesome new thing for a kid.
Hooray!
but we actually start seeing the exact opposite due to the sisters' deep bond. Throughout the episode, we can see Bluey asking for certain items from their old room,
Bingo, can the watermelon rug go in my room?
and with each item, we can see the special memories that they have with the items.
But can we have a rug race first? Yeah!
In a similar fashion to Chili's special memories with the old baby items, by playing the unique games that they made up for each item in the past. We even see Bingo move things around in the old bedroom, now to areas of the room that used to serve special and important connections to activities the two partaked in when they shared the room.
I did it so he can still watch Malcolm. Oh yeah, good one.
Right at night, we can see Bingo and Bluey heading to bed and forgetting that they now have their own rooms.
Yeah, where you go?
And we can see this very subtle but effective storytelling technique of the two rooms contrast in the hallway. One being bright and full, while the other, the old bedroom, is dark and looks almost empty in comparison. Try to remember this as we continue. And before heading to bed, we can see the two embracing each other for a rather long time, giving the audience the perspective of how deep their bond is, and how hard it must be to be separated to an extent.
Alright, come on.
Chili goes to give each kid a nice good night, and we can see the final transformation of Bluey's new room. Almost everything from the old room is in this room, making it almost to the point of cluttered. We then see Bingo's room. Once again, subtle contrast. This one seems bare and dark, a former shell of its previous form. We can see Bluey isn't feeling quite right as she storms from her room into Bingo's room and getting even more items from the old room, clearly compensating for something that will be clear in a few moments. And this scene is just so good because we start to see Bluey writing a note to Bingo and sliding it into her room, since currently they're supposed to be asleep. Bluey is asking for one last item as Bingo writes her own note, slides it over to Bluey's room, and this note contains a single heart. And as the music starts to build up, we can see Bluey replying to Bingo's letter, this time containing even more hearts. It goes without saying that the two sisters clearly miss each other's company, but still expresses their love for each one another by these small acts. And just as they're sending their notes, Chili catches them in the act. And we can see Chili getting to the bottom of it.
Are you okay, sweetie?
I'm just not sure I've got everything I need.
And as Chili asks what else does she need, we have to witness in silence as Bluey whispers something we can all assume to be along the lines of, "I miss Bingo." A Chili offers to allow Bluey to write one last note. As a finale, we get an ultimate callback from the beginning of the episode, where Chili was saying,
Guess
"It's
it's
not the room. It's who's been in it." As we get to see the final message from the sisters, reinstating the underlying message of the episode.
It's not the room.
In just 7 minutes, Bluey managed to completely explain the emotional bonds certain items can develop, even if on the surface they seem like regular old items. Due to the memories we make, any item, whether it be big or small, can be sentimental. I feel like it's impossible to make a list of emotional Bluey episodes and not list camping, and it might seem a bit surprising to see it only placed as number 6 on the list, but once again, as I stated at the very beginning, this list could fluctuate every day. Even at the time of recording, I feel like things could be reordered. Let's actually get into the episode that is known in the community to frequently cause crying spells. This episode starts off with the Healer family as well as her cousins out camping, where Bluey encounters a very special person while gathering wood by the name of John Luke.
Bonjour.
Bluey, being friendly as ever, greets back.
Hi.
However, it is made very clear that John Luke isn't able to speak any English and can only talk in French. John Luke takes the initiative and gives Bluey the wood to help her with the game she wanted to play. Throughout the entire episode, we can see the two helping each other out by communicating through more than words. Commonly, they come to agreement on what to do with their games by watching each other's body language and tone. Soon we can see them plant a seed in the ground, originally to help provide food for their game, but this little seedling represents a lot more under the surface. Seeing as they need an immediate food source, they choose to try to capture the wild boar bandit, giving them a new goal to work towards every day. Eventually, they're called by each of their parents to head to bed, and we can see them reconnect at the same spot that they originally met every day for the remainder of their vacation to continue playing. At this point, the language barrier becomes too much and comes into conflict with their attempts to capture Bandit, making the two visibly upset. However, they don't allow this to hurt their bond, and choose to try a new method the very next day of drawing out their plan to counteract their language barrier.
Wild pig. Sogly.
Doing this allows them to succeed and finally capture the boar. However, as we all know, vacations don't last forever, and Jean-Luc knows his family is leaving to go back to Canada the next day. Without a way to tell this to Bluey, we can see Bluey unknowingly hug her new friend for the last time, excited to play with him all over again the next day.
Au revoir, Bluey.
The build-up for the two's bond throughout the episode is done in a way that sets the episode up for success, as we can only have time to focus on positive thoughts, so when the audience reaches this point, it turns you completely on your head once we see Bluey's attempt to find Jean-Luc in every spot she can think of with no success.
You know where Jean-Luc is? His tent's not there.
Oh, yes, I saw them packing up.
What?
They must have left early this morning.
With an extremely delicate piano piece in the background, we can see Bluey processing what this all means for her new friendship. Later that night, an upset Bluey goes out with her mother and expresses her feelings to her mother,
Why did Jean-Luc have to go? He was my friend.
where we get to hear an extremely important life lesson that can be attributed to multiple different people in our lives, making it resonate with just about anyone.
Well, look, sometimes special people come into our lives, stay for a bit, and then they have to go. But the bit where they were here was happy, wasn't it? Maybe that makes it all worth it.
Will I ever see him again?
Well, you never know. The world's a magical place.
With an amazing backdrop transition showing off our beautiful world, and tying into Chili's lesson, the music starts crescendoing as we move on to the finale, putting the center of attention over to the seed that they both planted, as we watch it grow, signifying their friendship being ever strong, even after many years. Showing a now older Bluey heading over to where Jean-Luc and her first met, we get to see this emotional masterpiece.
Hello, Bluey.
Once again, with just a single line and scene, the show does what it does best and tugs at your heartstrings, as well as showing Jean-Luc's newly acquired English by allowing him to speak English for the first time ever.
Hello, Bluey.
Showing a subtle yet effective writing technique of showcasing Jean-Luc's potential wish of breaking the language barrier between the two. All of this shows about 3 different levels of storytelling to break down just from this small scene, and I think that is what makes this particular episode so magical and special. It appears this video is getting a lot longer than I originally anticipated, and we're only coming up to the number 5 position. I don't want to rush things and not properly explain the nuances of each episode, so I'll be splitting this video up into 2 parts, but make sure to hit subscribe so you can join me next time as we continue this list, and as always, allow me to thank the people who support me and my goal. The more support I get, the closer I get to pumping these videos out daily. All of this wouldn't be possible without the members, Clairvoyance, Cameron, and Rick Iglesias. These members support me as little as $5 dues, and you can also support me by clicking the link in the top right or in the comments description. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye.
And the last shall be first to immerse in a pass out heat, facing him out with a moxie melt till he woke up drowning in tchotchke hell. War in a cave with a torch on a wall, then a window arrangement of porcelain dolls.